What's up there, niece and nephew? It's your big uncle, the Alex Jones of Expat Relocation.
I'm in control now.
I am here with one of my good friends from New Zealand, my big brother Matt from the streets of Wellington, New Zealand. We were nightclub bouncers together. I want to tell you guys a little bit of background on me. For those of you who don't know, I lived in New Zealand for over 3 years. I had residency in New Zealand. My wife is an Australian citizen, so it was relatively easy for us to come to New Zealand, get a work visa, establish residency. So I was initially, as an expat, still kind of 1 foot in the West and 1 foot out of the West when I went to New Zealand. I had been spending time in Asia, but I was still going back and forth to the US or to countries like New Zealand, working and then coming back to Asia, then working and then coming back to Asia. I hadn't made the full split yet. So my first real experience living as an expat for a long duration of time was in Wellington. I lived in the South Island as well. I lived in Dunedin, which is a small city in the South Island, but for not a very long period of time. The majority of my time was spent on the North Island of New Zealand in the city of Wellington. It's a city that makes a lot of lists for best places in the world to live. I would probably disagree with that list personally, but there are some major advantages to New Zealand. You have clean air, relatively clean food supply. You have low population density. You have lots of undeveloped space. There are a lot of things about New Zealand that are very positive, but ultimately I still decided to leave New Zealand. And today we're going to talk to my buddy who was born and raised Kiwi. He's born and raised in New Zealand. He's been there his whole life. And I want to see, because now he's thinking about getting out of New Zealand, if the reasons he's thinking about leaving are similar to the reasons why I initially decided not to stay myself. So I think what we're going to do today is we're going to explore from, again, a somewhat anecdotal experience, because this is just his experience as an individual, not representative necessarily of every person, every situation. Like I tell you guys all the time, there's all different types of situations out there. And this is just Matt's situation. So we're going to take it from what he's paying to live, and we're going to talk a little bit about what I pay to live out here in Southeast Asia, and we'll do a little comparing, and we'll try to cover a couple different topics today, from things relating to not just the cost of living, but what you're getting for that cost, the cost of utilities, the cost of food, what you're getting in terms of lifestyle, some of the positives, some of the negatives. And ultimately, we're going to try to figure out why this lifelong Kiwi is actually thinking about leaving his motherland. And if you guys like this type of content, if you agree with us or disagree with us, or if there's a point you'd like to bring up to us, please leave it in the comments. We love hearing from you guys. Please like, subscribe, and share the videos. There's a high percentage of you that watch the videos. We have long watch time, but a lot of you guys are not clicking the subscribe button. If you click the subscribe button, you will make me very happy. I will be a very, very, very happy man. So let's start off. First, I'm going to say that most of the prices are going to be quoted in New Zealand dollars. Just so you guys know, the currency that we're talking about in this video will primarily be New Zealand dollars. I may make some references to US dollars. We may compare somewhat because I'm in Southeast Asia, so my prices will be in US dollars, but we'll make sure to get that up on the screen so it's clear for you guys. First, I guess let's start talking about, I've been gone for about 7 years. What have I missed?
Oh, I remember you seven years ago, and you weren't happy about the prices then. It's probably a good thing you're not in New Zealand, because you'd be pretty disappointed with the prices now. Yeah, it's gotten really bad. Yeah, it's gotten really bad in terms of just the cost of living, but also like crime and some of the social issues that stem from that. So yeah, it's not good.
Okay, so what would you be looking at, for example, like a 1-bedroom apartment in Wellington in the city center, or one of the suburbs that are just adjacent to the city center? What would a 1-bedroom apartment cost, just roughly? Again, we're talking about maybe like Mount Victoria, like somewhere near, not Mount Victoria, like Mount Cook, or TRO, or one of those inner suburbs of Wellington.
Yeah, you're going to struggle to find something for less than 400. If a place that's fully furnished, yeah, it's gonna be tough to find something less than $400. I live in a single bedroom apartment. I was paying $350. That's just gone up to $375. And mine is it's very small, and it's probably not indicative of a typical single bedroom apartment. I know the median weekly rent price is like $600 now, so that kind of idea of what we're paying.
So people are paying $600 a week to live, and
Yeah,
that's New Zealand dollars. So what would that be in US dollars? Okay, so that's $367 a week.
yeah,
Okay,
US.
so
Yeah,
guys, so that's 367 US dollars a week in order to obtain a one bedroom apartment in the city center of Wellington. Do you live in the city center now, or do you commute in?
no, I live in the city center. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and do you know? I imagine a lot of people would be commuting. Do you know what the prices for like things like buses or trains are?
I haven't caught the train in a while, so I'd imagine it's a lot more expensive than it was. So from where I used to be living outside the city, which is about 45 minutes, one trip would cost 9.50, which is
$9 New Zealand.
yeah, New Zealand dollars, which is kind of ridiculous. Yeah, I mean you could get like cheaper monthly passes, but it's only a little bit cheaper overall, you know.
And the train doesn't run 24 hours, right? It closes at a certain time.
Yeah, it stops around midnight and then starts around 6 a.m.
So really, you have to pay a high amount for the service, and the service isn't really even available 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And as far as restaurants, what are you guys paying for like a sit down meal for like a single person at like just like a mid range restaurants, like something on Courtney Place or in Cuba Mall?
So in Courtney Place, it's a little bit more expensive. You could be paying upwards of $30, $40 for a meal, but even the cheaper places aren't that cheap. Like you're really going to struggle to find something less than $20, $25 for just one meal.
Is that even for like these Malaysian places, like where you have like the bowl of soup? Is something like that almost $20?
Yeah, I'm talking, yeah, like cheap, like Indian places, like curries, you know, it's just going to be more than $20.
And is that a full meal or is that just like one dish?
Yeah, that's just the one dish. That doesn't include sides and entrees and that.
Wow. Wow. I'm like in my jaw is dropping here, guys. I'm floored at the prices that you're paying to live right now. That's absolutely crazy. And you did say the minimum wage is $25 an hour in New Zealand, right?
I think they're putting it up to 24. 20.
24. Okay. How is that taxed?
So I can only speak for myself. I know because I have a student loan, it's like 30%, almost 30%, which is really
Damn,
high. Yeah.
that's
So
terrible.
yeah, I'm not sure what it is for someone without a student loan, but I mean, yeah, I mean, student loan or not, you shouldn't be paying that much on taxes. And when you look at
Yeah.
like top tax rates, like 30% is not that far off the top tax rate. So, you know, if you're working a minimum wage and if you've got a student loan, you could be paying, you know, a little bit less than, you know, someone making six figures sort of thing.
That's an absolutely absurd tax system.
Yeah.
Now, do you get a lot of social benefits? Is it still like a pretty good social welfare state there? Like, are you still happy with like the quality of the services, like healthcare, things like that?
Nope. So, like, we do have free healthcare, but in New Zealand, we have a system where you can use both the private and public healthcare service. And most people just tend to use the private one because it's just it only costs, you know, $30 or whatever for an appointment, but it's so much faster. Like, I went to the public hospital last year a few times and I was waiting 12 hours just to be seen by a doctor.
Wow.
Um,
So things have really become backed up.
Yeah, and interestingly, they've stopped around 2019. They seem to have stopped taking data on or making the data public on hospital wait times for whatever reason. That's the
Wow.
same. That's the same with the suicide rate. You know, they don't have a confirmed suicide rate after 2019. So something around that time, which is before COVID. You know, that I guess they were embarrassed about their numbers and they stopped making them public.
Well, one of the things I was really hopeful for was that someone was going to come along and start dealing with some of the housing issues in New Zealand because one of the reasons I ultimately left was because I just could not justify to myself the high cost of living for the very low housing standards. Like I was living, you remember my apartment in Aro Valley? I was living in basically a shed that was, it was almost like camping. I was basically outside and I was paying several $100s a week plus, you know, hundreds of dollars a month for power, for the privilege of living outside with like giant grasshoppers and shit.
Yeah, I remember that place. It was horrible. It really was like a shed, you know?
Yeah, I came a long way, bro. I live in a high rise now. Let me tell you a little bit just to give you guys some comparison for those of you that are Kiwis who are just tuning in and checking out the you know, the conversation that we're having today. We're kind of just doing a little bit of a comparison. Matt here is a really old friend of mine, and it's been a while since we've caught up. So I'm really curious to hear about like how things are in New Zealand. And he hasn't heard much about what we've been doing. So I'll give it a brief opportunity to tell you guys a little bit about my cost of living. I pay 480 US dollars a month. I have a 1 bedroom apartment on the 12th floor with a view. I have a panoramic view on my rooftop with a pool, a steam room, a sauna. My rooftop is the 38th floor. I'm in a prime location, you know, very central in the capital city of Phnom Penh, Cambodia. I have 24-hour tuk-tuks I use for transportation. So I call a tuk-tuk on an app and a guy picks me up and will take me, usually it's about like 2 kilometers is about 70 cents, and maybe like 5 or 6 kilometers might be a little bit over $2. And that can fit me and Mish both in one tuk-tuk. And when we had family in town, we just ordered a larger tuk-tuk. So for maybe $2.50, we could transport our family for like 4 or 5 kilometers in like a larger tuk-tuk that will come pick us up at any time of the day, 24 hours. Generally speaking, cars are a little bit more expensive. Usually you can get a car for anywhere from $5 to $10. You can call SUVs. I guess it kind of depends on your budget. On a typical restaurant meal, Phnom Penh's a little bit expensive for food. I pay about $5 a dish. So usually I'll go to a restaurant and I'll have 2 or 3 dishes for me and Mish. So we've been eating 2 people for average about $12 to $15. Again, US dollars. And my power bill, again, Cambodia is a little bit more expensive for power in this part of the world. I think it, you know, we don't use AC, we use fan, but a lot of expats do use AC. So their power bill on average would maybe be about $70 to $100 a month. Ours is right around like $50, $60, kind of depending. So how does that sound to you? Do those prices sound kind of like insane from where you're coming from?